Burbank, California. February 1966. 3:47 p.m. The air inside the 20th Century Fox Executive Conference Room carries the scent of cigarette smoke and leather-bound scripts. Afternoon light cuts through Venetian blinds, striping the mahogany table where 5 men sit in uncomfortable silence. Outside, the lot hums with activity, crew members pushing dollies, actresses in costume heading to sound stages. Inside this room, tension builds like static before a storm. Bruce Lee sits at the edge of the table, his fingers drumming a pattern only he understands. He's 25 years old, compact at 5 feet 7 inches and 135 pounds, wearing a simple black turtleneck that accentuates the coiled power in his frame. His dark eyes scan the pages before him, pages that will never see production, pages that represent a dream deferred. The Batman television series. The role of Kato's replacement. The part that would have made him a household name. Across from him, the producer exhales smoke toward the acoustic-tiled ceiling. The script supervisor shifts papers nervously. And there, 3 chairs down, sits the stunt coordinator who will change everything in the next 5 minutes. His name is Gene LeBell. 6 feet 0 inches, 200 pounds of grappling expertise. Former AAU national judo champion. A man who has made dozens of tough guys tap out on mats across Southern California. He leans back in his chair with the easy confidence of someone who has never lost an argument that mattered. His reputation precedes him like a shadow. Judo Gene, they call him, the man who choked out a boxer in Salt Lake City just 2 years prior when the boxer claimed wrestlers couldn't fight. Bruce sets down the script. His jaw tightens. The producers have just told him the part is going to Burt Ward's stunt double instead. Robin will have a new fighting companion. But Robin can't beat me, Bruce thinks. And then he says it aloud. Robin can't beat me. The words hang in the tobacco-stained air. LeBell's eyebrows raise slightly. The producer coughs. Someone's pen stops mid-signature. What happened in those 5 seconds would reveal something about combat that Hollywood still doesn't understand, something about the difference between theatrical violence and the real thing, between reputation and reality, between what the camera loves and what the body knows. But to understand those 5 seconds, you need to understand how these 2 men arrived in this room, carrying philosophies of combat that had never directly collided. Bruce Lee came to America in 1959 with $100 in his pocket and a martial arts system most Americans had never heard of. Wing Chun. A close-range combat method developed for tight spaces, built on efficiency and directness. But by 1966, he has evolved beyond Wing Chun. He's synthesizing. Taking Western boxing footwork, fencing principles, watching wrestlers and judoka, dissecting movement like a physicist studies trajectories. His speed is already legendary among those who know. At the Long Beach International Karate Championships in 1964, he performed his 1-inch punch, generating 150 pounds of force from a distance shorter than a credit card is wide, sending a man stumbling backward into a chair. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, not yet the NBA legend but a UCLA student named Lul Sindor, will soon seek Bruce out, describing his hands as faster than thought itself. But Hollywood doesn't care about 1-inch punches. Hollywood cares about camera angles and choreography and actors who can hit their marks. Bruce has been teaching martial arts to celebrities, Steve McQueen, James Coburn, James Garner, but his acting career consists of one role, Kato, the silent sidekick on the Green Hornet. A show that will be cancelled within a year. A show where he's not allowed to speak more than a few lines per episode because network executives worry about giving an Asian man too much presence. The Batman opportunity represented something different. A chance to expand, to demonstrate, to fight on America's most watched television series. Instead, the producers are politely telling him he's too ethnic, too intense, too real for what they need. They need someone who can lose convincingly to Robin. Someone who can make a teenager in bright tights look dangerous. Bruce's response, "Robin can't beat me," isn't arrogance. It's observable fact stated plainly. But in Hollywood, where stuntmen choreograph everything and actors pretend to be knocked out for the camera, stating observable facts sounds like a challenge. If you want to discover how this legendary confrontation unfolded and the profound lesson it revealed, make sure you're subscribed, because what happens next will challenge everything you thought you knew about combat. Gene LeBell has nothing to prove to a kung fu instructor. At 33, he's already a legend in grappling circles. He started judo at age 7 under his mother, Aileen Eaton, a boxing and wrestling promoter who ran the Olympic Auditorium in Los Angeles. By 13, he was winning tournaments. By 20, he held a national championship. His groundwork is suffocating. Once he establishes position, opponents describe it as drowning on dry land. But his defining moment came in December 1963. Salt Lake City. A professional boxer named Milo Savage had been claiming that wrestlers were fake, that grapplers couldn't handle real fighters, that the sweet science would demolish any man who tried to clinch. A promoter arranged a match. LeBell arrived at the arena to find rules designed to favor the boxer, no closed-fist strikes for him, while Savage could punch freely. The crowd was hostile, throwing beer bottles, shouting ethnic slurs about his Jewish heritage. The fight lasted 4 rounds. LeBell absorbed punches, weathered combinations, closed distance. In the 4th round, he secured a rear-naked choke. Savage went unconscious, then soiled himself as his body shut down. The referee tried to pull LeBell off. The crowd rioted. Police escorted him out the back entrance. But the message was sent: grapplers were not pretenders. Wrestling worked when striking failed. Now, in this conference room, LeBell hears a martial artist, a striker, essentially, claim that Robin, or by extension any fighter, can't beat him. The stunt coordinator leans forward. His voice carries the flat effect of someone stating scheduling details. "You really think you're that fast?" Bruce's response is immediate. "Fast enough." "Fast enough for what?" "Fast enough that you couldn't grab me." The producer senses disaster. He raises a hand, tries to redirect the conversation back to casting. But LeBell is already standing, moving around the table with the unhurried confidence of a man who has choked out 3 people in bar fights just this year. Bruce stands as well. The script supervisor backs toward the door. The afternoon light seems brighter suddenly, exposing every detail in the room: the coffee rings on the table, the fraying edges of the carpet, the way Bruce's shoulders settle into a structure that makes him look larger than his 135 pounds. "Show me," LeBell says. And Bruce nods once, sharp and definite as a blade finding its sheath. They move to the center of the room. Chairs scrape backward. The producer's cigarette burns forgotten in the ashtray. Outside, a PA system calls for Mr. DeMille on stage 9. A forklift beeps in reverse. The ordinary sounds of a film lot on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Inside this room, 2 philosophies are about to collide. LeBell assumes a wrestler's stance, weight low, hands forward, fingers spread like a man preparing to catch a medicine ball thrown from close range. His base is wide, rooted. 40 years of grappling have taught him that battles are won in the first 2 seconds of contact. Establish grips. Control the clinch. Take the back. Finish. Bruce stands differently. Weight on his rear leg, lead hand extended, fingers loose. His front foot points slightly inward, heel raised. To an untrained eye, he looks almost casual, like a man about to shake hands. But his structure is perfect: the angle of his spine, the coil in his hips, the readiness in his shoulders. He's about drawn halfway, waiting to release. LeBell moves first. He steps forward with his right foot, hands shooting toward Bruce's shoulders and neck, the classic judo entry, seeking collar and sleeve control. His fingers travel 18 inches in half a heartbeat. 40 years of muscle memory guide the motion. Against 99% of opponents, this entry secures the engagement. Against boxers, karate men, street fighters, they all make the same mistake. They commit to a strike, or they freeze, and in that fraction of hesitation, his grips land. Bruce isn't there. His rear foot slides backward 3 inches. His torso rotates 15 degrees. LeBell's right hand passes through the space where Bruce's left shoulder existed a quarter second earlier, finding only air and the ghost of pressure. The room's geometry shifts. What was a closing distance becomes an opening gap. But LeBell is already adjusting. This is what makes him elite, not just the initial attempt, but the chain of attempts, the relentless problem-solving that turns grappling into suffocation. His left hand drops lower, seeking Bruce's lead arm. If he can't control the collar, he'll control the wrist. From the wrist comes the elbow. From the elbow comes the shoulder. From the shoulder comes the takedown. Bruce's lead hand intercepts. Not with force, but with angle. His fingers meet LeBell's reaching hand at the knuckles, redirecting the trajectory 6 inches to the right. The motion is so economical it barely registers as a technique. No wind-up. No chambering. Just present-tense adjustment. LeBell feels his own momentum carrying him slightly past center, his weight committing forward in a way that would be invisible to spectators but is catastrophic to balance. 3 seconds have elapsed. The producer's mouth opens. The script supervisor's hand grips the door frame. Outside, someone laughs on their way to the commissary, the sound distant and surreal against the absolute focus inside this room. LeBell resets. He respects what just happened. Not many people can evade his initial entry. But evasion isn't victory. Every striker eventually runs out of room. Every fighter who refuses to engage eventually backs into a corner. He takes another step, this time feinting high but driving low, changing levels like a wrestler shooting for a double-leg takedown. Bruce's knee comes up. Not violently. Not with the chambered power of a Muay Thai fighter preparing to cave in ribs. Just a measured elevation that places his shin precisely where LeBell's head would arrive if the level change continued. It's a fence, not a weapon. A statement of geometry. LeBell reads it instantly. If he continues forward, he drives his face into that shin at full speed. If he doesn't continue forward, his takedown dies incomplete. He pulls back. Circles right. 4 seconds. The room smells like leather and adrenaline now. Someone's breathing has quickened. Might be the script supervisor, might be the producer, might be LeBell himself, though his expression remains neutral as mathematics. Bruce's face shows nothing. No smirk of superiority. No tension of fear. Just present moment awareness, eyes tracking LeBell's center mass rather than his hands, reading intention before movement. Interesting, LeBell says. The word comes out even, unbothered, the tone of a mechanic noting an unusual engine sound. Bruce doesn't respond. Words are distance. Silence is readiness. LeBell tries one more time. This attempt is different, not a wrestling shot, not a judo grip, but something more instinctive. He surges forward with his right hand extended in a distracting motion while his left hand arcs wide, attempting to wrap behind Bruce's neck from an oblique angle. It's the movement that worked on Milo Savage in the 4th round in Salt Lake City. It's the grip that has finished bar fights and settled arguments and proven his point 100 times over. Bruce moves inside the arc. While LeBell's left arm swings wide seeking the rear collar grip, Bruce slides forward and to the right, entering the space that briefly opens inside LeBell's arm radius. His lead hand rises, palm open, stopping 3 inches from LeBell's jaw. Not making contact. Not needing to. The position says everything. If this were real, if intent matched ability, LeBell's face would be a target he couldn't defend because his own left arm is extended past the point of return, his base temporarily compromised by the aggressive entry. 5 seconds. They freeze there. Bruce's hand hovering near LeBell's face. LeBell's arm extended past its target. The afternoon light catches every detail, the tendons in Bruce's wrist, the slight widening of LeBell's eyes, the way both men's feet have carved invisible patterns on the carpet like a geometry proof written in pressure and balance. Then Bruce steps back. His hand drops to his side. His stance relaxes incrementally, though readiness still hums beneath the surface like voltage through a wire. LeBell straightens. Rolls his shoulders. The expression on his face isn't defeat, it's the look of a scientist encountering data that challenges the hypothesis. His whole career has been built on proving that grapplers can dominate strikers, that wrestling defeats punching, that the ground is where truth lives. But what just happened wasn't about grappling versus striking. It was about something deeper. Distance management. Timing. The ability to read intention before it becomes action. The producer releases a breath he didn't know he was holding. The script supervisor's knuckles are white on the door frame. Outside, a car alarm chirps. Someone yells lunch toward stage 7. The ordinary world continuing its ordinary rotation while inside this room, something fundamental has shifted. You're fast, LeBell says. Not grudging. Not admitting defeat. Simply acknowledging observable reality. Faster than you look. Bruce nods once. You're technical. Everything you did was correct for what you do. But you didn't let me do it. That's the point. The producer clears his throat, desperate to return to scripts and casting and things he understands. But LeBell raises a hand, stopping him. The stunt coordinator is looking at Bruce differently now. Not as a martial arts instructor who teaches celebrities. Not as an Asian actor who played a sidekick on a failing television show. But as someone who understands something real. "Show me that again," LeBell says. "The thing where you moved inside my arm." Bruce smiles for the first time since entering the room. It's not a smile of triumph. It's the smile of recognition, one practitioner acknowledging another, one scholar of violence meeting a fellow researcher. "You couldn't use it," Bruce says. "Your system doesn't work that way. You need the clinch. You need to close distance and control grips. What I do depends on never letting you establish those grips. So what happens if you can't stop me? What happens if I get my hands on you?" Bruce considers this. Honest self-assessment flickers across his face. "Then I lose. Your ground game is better than mine. If you get the clinch, if you get the takedown, I don't have answers for your world. That's why I can't let you take me there." The honesty lands like a stone in still water. LeBell nods slowly. He's spent his whole career making people admit this, that grapplers win on the ground. But Bruce has admitted it without being forced to tap, without being choked unconscious, without needing the lesson carved into his body. He already knows his limitations. He's already structured his entire approach around preventing the engagement that would expose those limitations. "So you're saying styles make fights," LeBell says. "I'm saying there's no best style. Only best distance, best timing, best understanding of what you can and can't do." The script supervisor doesn't understand the significance of what she's witnessing. The producer thinks they're just two stuntmen talking shop. But what's happening in this room is the seed of something that will reshape martial arts philosophy for the next 60 years. LeBell extends his hand. Bruce takes it. The handshake is firm, brief, containing mutual respect that didn't exist 5 minutes ago. "Forget Batman," LeBell says. "You should be teaching what you just showed me." "I am teaching it. That's the problem. Hollywood doesn't want teachers. They want performers." "Then you're in the wrong town." Bruce's laugh is quiet, almost bitter. "I'm beginning to understand that." The meeting ends 20 minutes later with polite handshakes and promises that mean nothing. Bruce doesn't get the Batman role. The script goes to someone else, someone more pliable, someone who can lose to a teenager in green shorts convincingly. He walks out of the 20th Century Fox lot into the late afternoon sun, carrying the same script he carried in, but something inside him has crystallized. Gene LeBell drives home in silence. What happened in that conference room sits differently than his other encounters. He's spent his career proving that grapplers dominate strikers, and he still believes it. But Bruce didn't fight him. Bruce didn't let there be a fight. He simply refused to enter the conversation where LeBell was fluent. 3 weeks later, LeBell calls Bruce. Asks if he can come to the Chinatown school. Not to challenge. To learn. Bruce agrees. They spend an evening trading knowledge like scholars trade references, Bruce showing footwork that creates angles, LeBell demonstrating grip fighting that makes takedowns inevitable. Not as competitors, but as researchers mapping the same territory from different directions. This exchange continues sporadically over the next 7 years. They never become close friends, but they maintain respect born from that 5-second encounter where neither man needed to prove superiority. Drop a comment below. Do you think Bruce's philosophy of distance management was superior, or was LeBell holding back the true answer about what happens when grapplers close the gap? Defend your position. I want to see real martial arts debates in the comments. Let's see who understands the deeper lesson here. In 1973, Bruce Lee dies in Hong Kong. Cerebral edema. 32 years old. LeBell hears the news on the radio while driving to a stunt gig. He pulls over on the Ventura Freeway shoulder. Sits in silence while traffic streams past. He thinks about that conference room, about the way Bruce's hand stopped 3 inches from his face, not because he couldn't close the gap, but because he didn't need to. Years later, reporters and martial arts historians ask LeBell about Bruce Lee. Did they fight? Who would have won? And LeBell's answer remains consistent. We didn't fight. We talked in the language of movement. And what I learned was that winning isn't about who's tougher. It's about who understands the right question to ask. In 1994, The first Ultimate Fighting Championship proves what that conference room encounter suggested, that styles really do make fights, that grapplers dominate strikers who don't understand distance, that strikers defeat grapplers who can't close the gap. But by UFC 168, champions are fluent in multiple ranges. The specialists have been replaced by generalists who understand that Bruce was right, there is no best style, only best adaptation to circumstances. LeBell, now in his 80s, watches these fights with satisfaction. He tells anyone who will listen about that afternoon in 1966, about a 135-pound martial artist who understood something the world wasn't ready to learn. In 2012, LeBell receives a Lifetime Achievement Award from the UFC. During his acceptance speech, he tells the story one final time. The conference room. The 5 seconds. The lesson Bruce Lee taught without throwing a strike. He showed me that the best fight is the one you don't have, LeBell says, his voice gravelly but clear. Not because you're scared. Not because you can't. But because you understand that proving you're right means someone has to lose, and maybe, just maybe, learning from each other is worth more than winning. The audience applauds, but most don't understand. They came to watch knockouts and submissions, to witness dominance displayed in high definition. The deeper lesson remains hidden beneath the violence they celebrate. But some understand. The thoughtful ones who train not just to win fights but to understand conflict itself. They hear what LeBell is really saying, that Bruce Lee's greatest victory wasn't over an opponent, but over the idea that victory requires opponents at all. If this story changed how you see martial arts, hit that subscribe button. There are dozens more untold confrontations like this, moments that rewrote the rules of combat. You don't want to miss what's coming next. Bruce Lee saw the Batman script and warned that Robin couldn't beat him. 5 seconds later, he proved something more important, that the fighters we remember aren't the ones who win, but the ones who teach us what victory really means.